They called them flying coffins. For every 5 men who climbed into a door gunner's seat during World War II, only 1 would live to tell the tale. Their life expectancy wasn't measured in months, but in missions, sometimes just 2. But it wasn't just enemy fire that killed them. It was physics, design, and the cold itself. This is the story of the most dangerous seat in the sky. It was 1943. The air war over Europe and the Pacific had reached its deadliest phase. Massive bombers like the B-17 Flying Fortress and the B-24 Liberator filled the skies, hauling tons of bombs toward targets deep inside enemy territory. But each of those slow, lumbering aircraft was a magnet for enemy fighters. To survive, the bombers carried gunners, men stationed in the nose, the tail, the belly, and the open doors along the fuselage. Their job was simple on paper: keep the enemy away. In reality, it was suicide duty. They were 19 or 20 years old, barely trained, barely protected, and often facing dozens of seasoned Luftwaffe or Japanese pilots determined to burn them from the sky. And when the bombers took off, everyone on board knew half of them wouldn't return. At first, military planners believed that machine guns placed all around the aircraft would make bombers nearly invincible. The logic was simple. If every approach angle was covered, enemy fighters would never dare come close. In briefings, generals called it a flying porcupine. Brave words on paper, but reality shredded that illusion. The Luftwaffe adapted fast. German Messerschmitt Bf-109s and Focke-Wulf 190s attacked from head-on or from below, angles where door gunners couldn't aim. Japanese Zeros in the Pacific dove from the sun, invisible until they were seconds away. The sky became chaos, tracer fire arcing across thin air, cannon shells ripping through aluminum skin, oxygen lines bursting into flame. Door gunners were the most exposed of all. No armor plates, no sealed canopy, just wind, noise, and the knowledge that one lucky burst could end everything. At 20,000 feet, temperatures dropped to -40 degrees Celsius. Their fingers froze to the triggers, their oxygen masks iced over, their skin turned blue beneath leather flight caps. They weren't just fighting the enemy, they were fighting the atmosphere itself. Private Jack Mathers was 19 when he flew his first mission out of England. He'd grown up in Kansas, fixing tractors on his father's farm. 2 years earlier, he'd never seen an airplane up close. Now, he was hanging out the side of a B-24, holding twin .50 caliber Browning machine guns, watching the contrails of other bombers stretch across the frozen sky. On his 5th mission, his crew was hit by flak over Bremen. A shell tore through the right wing and set the fuel tanks ablaze. The pilot yelled to bail out. Jack jumped, but the cold locked his fingers around the ripcord. When his parachute finally opened, he was spinning through burning debris. He hit the ground half frozen, both hands black with frostbite. German soldiers found him crawling through a snow-covered field. Later, in a POW camp, someone asked why he'd kept flying after watching friends burn alive. Jack just said, "Because someone had to, and I was already there." Door gunners didn't think of themselves as heroes. They were ordinary boys doing an impossible job for each other. So why were their chances so bad? Part of the answer was design. World War II bombers were never built with survival in mind. They were built to deliver payloads. Speed and altitude mattered more than protection. Armor was heavy, and weight meant shorter range, so the gunners' positions were left exposed. The door gunners, positioned near the side hatches or waist openings, stood behind nothing thicker than a thin layer of aluminum. Enemy fire sliced through like paper. Their flak vests were little more than sandbags sewn into fabric. Then came the physics. At high altitudes, the air was thin, the temperature deadly. One tiny hit could rupture oxygen lines or freeze hydraulic systems. Machine guns jammed from the cold, and if a gunner tried to clear the barrel, he risked losing fingers to frostbite. The job also demanded perfect coordination. Each gunner had to fire just enough to drive off attackers without hitting the tail, the wings, or other bombers in the formation. In that chaos, seconds mattered. Most never had the chance to correct a mistake. By 1943, the US 8th Air Force had a 50% casualty rate among bomber crews. But for gunners, particularly the door gunners, it climbed to 80%. They were the first hit, the least protected, and the hardest to rescue. October 14th, 1943, the second raid on Schweinfurt. 291 B-17s left England that morning. Only 197 returned. It became known as Black Thursday. As the bombers approached the target, German fighters swarmed like hornets. Dozens attacked from all sides. Frontal assaults, vertical dives, coordinated waves. The sky erupted in red tracers and black flak clouds. Door gunners fired until their gun barrels glowed cherry red. Shell casings clattered across the floor. The stench of gunpowder filled their lungs. Every few seconds, another bomber disappeared in a flash of smoke. One gunner, Staff Sergeant Al Franson, kept firing after his tail was blown clean off. Witnesses said he was still gripping his gun when the wreckage fell 20,000 feet. They found him days later, still strapped to what was left of his turret. The survivors called it a miracle wrapped in metal. In that single mission, 600 men were killed or captured, most of them gunners. By 1945, technology finally caught up with the sacrifice. New bombers like the B-29 Superfortress introduced pressurized cabins and remote-controlled turrets, shielding crews from the elements and giving them a fighting chance. But for the thousands who had already served in open positions, the change came too late. They returned home, if they returned at all, with ringing ears, trembling hands, and memories that haunted them for decades. Back then, it wasn't called PTSD. It was combat fatigue. Doctors told them to toughen up, to forget. Most never did. Today, and we remember the pilots, the aces, the commanders, the generals, but the door gunners. Their names rarely made it into the history books, yet without them, the great bombing campaigns that crippled Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan might never have succeeded. Every ton of bombs dropped, every mission completed, was paid for with the lives of men who never had a way out. They didn't fly for medals. They didn't fly for glory. They flew because someone had to stand between death and their brothers in arms. 80% never came home, but their courage still echoes in the roar of every engine that takes to the sky. When you hear that deep, distant thunder of aircraft passing overhead, remember them, the gunners who faced the fire so others could return. This was Wartime Legends, because some heroes never had the chance to land. If you believe their story deserves to be remembered, subscribe, share, and keep their legend alive.